Cliche your way through life. Remix. Every cloud has a silver lining. Value, hope. May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in him, so that you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. Romans 15:13. Hope doesn't take away the pain. It helps you carry it. It's not about ignoring the storm. It's about trusting that the storm will pass. And even if it changes you, it won't break you. This chapter is about finding purpose, even in the moments that don't make sense. Hope reminds us that grief is not the end. Loss is not the end. Uncertainty is not the end. Sometimes what feels like an ending is actually the start of something new. And with hope, you can hold space for both the sadness of the storm and the promise of the silver lining. Seeing the silver lining in my own life. Losing my father wasn't just one of the hardest moments of my life. It was the moment that shifted everything. I had always been the responsible one, the one others could count on to show up, hold things together, and carry the weight. But his death, especially during a time when I was already exhausted, broke me open. I didn't grieve the way people often describe, through tears and emotional release. Instead, I grieved through task. I became the planner, the doer. I wrote his obituary, chose his clothing, managed the burial. I buried my grief under responsibility. Even now, as I write this, pieces of that process are still unfolding, and for a long time, I didn't realize how deeply I abandoned myself in the name of keeping it all together. But here's what I've learned. Grief isn't just about what we lose. It's also about what we find. In the quiet moments after everything had been handled, I had to face the truth I had long ignored. Constantly caring for others while neglecting myself wasn't sustainable. My father's death forced me to pause, to reflect, to finally ask myself, what do I need? That moment became a turning point, not because the pain disappeared, but because something began to rise within me. Hope. Hope that my healing mattered. Hope that this loss wasn't the end of my story. And even though I didn't always feel worthy of healing, I began to understand God's love isn't conditional. I didn't have to earn clarity. I didn't have to rush my grief. I just had to be willing to keep showing up, honestly, fully, and as I was. That was hope. Not pretending to be strong, but allowing myself to feel and still believe I had more life ahead. At first, I stood in that grief like it was a waiting room, hoping for answers, longing for closure. But over time, I realized God wasn't punishing me or abandoning me in my pain. God was gently guiding me, not with loud answers, but with quiet reminders that I still had purpose. Hope didn't flood in, it trickled. In silence that helped me hear my own voice again. In clarity that felt like breath after holding it too long. In moments that reminded me I'm still here for a reason. And to fully receive what was next, I had to let go of what was. I had to loosen my grip on the pain and make space for the light to return. Not because the grief vanished, but because I was finally ready to see beyond it. I faced more losses after my father passed. Friendships faded, relationships dissolved, and even a version of myself had to fall away. But strangely, it was through those losses that I began to find myself. I had been living in a fog for so long, unsure of who I was or where I was going. But in the aftermath of that grief, I began to see myself clearly, not through the lens of pain, but through the lens of purpose. That's what hope does. It shows up when we least expect it. It whispers that even in the deepest hurt, something beautiful can still emerge. My father's death didn't just mark an ending, it ignited a beginning, one that led me back to myself. And that, to me, is the gift of hope, not the absence of sorrow, but the quiet promise that there's still more ahead, a future worth walking toward. A version of you that's stronger, clearer, and more whole than you've ever been before. When one door closes, another opens. Grief, loss, disappointment, these are life's closed doors. Whether it's the death of a loved one, the end of a relationship, or walking away from a job, it can feel like everything you knew is suddenly gone. You find yourself waiting in the hallway, holding on to what was, holding on to what used to be, wondering what's next. But closed doors aren't the end of the story. That's where this cliche comes in. Every cloud has a silver lining. It doesn't mean you pretend everything is fine. It means you give yourself permission to know something meaningful can still come from the mess. That behind the cloud, there's something waiting, a truth, a transformation, a new beginning. How to find this silver lining in any situation. Life will bring storms, but storms don't mean you failed. They often mean you're being prepared. Here's how to find the purpose through pain. 1. Ask what this is teaching you. Every loss carries a lesson. Whether it's about boundaries, self-worth, or surrender, listen for what the moment is trying to reveal. 2. Focus on what you can control. Grief can feel overwhelming because so much feels out of your hands. Anchor yourself by choosing how you show up, how you speak to yourself, and how you can take care of your peace. 3. Trust that clarity comes with time. The silver lining isn't always obvious. Give yourself space to sit in the cloud while still believing the light will break through. Conclusion. Stepping into the silver lining. Pain is real, loss is heavy, but purpose has a way of meeting you right in the middle of it. If you're willing to look. I could have let the passing of my father keep me stuck in the rat race we call life, chasing goals without stopping to ask if they even mattered. But in the storm, I found light. Writing his obituary changed me. Seeing an entire life reduced to a few paragraphs made me pause and reflect on my own. What legacy am I leaving behind? What really matters to me? Silver linings don't erase the pain. They give it meaning. They remind us that every ending is also the beginning of something new. Even in the breakdown, there is a breakthrough waiting to be born. So, when the clouds roll in, don't just brace for the storm. Prepare for what it's revealing. The cloud might change you, but it won't cancel you. With hope and love, the light always returns. A little R&R. Remix and reflex. Value, hope. Before you turn the page, take a deep breath. Let this chapter settle. Let your spirit speak. Remix this truth. Hope doesn't erase the storm. It simply reminds you that you can make it through it, and that even here, something sacred is being formed. Reflect on this. 1. What is one painful experience you've had to carry, and what has it taught you so far? 2. Have you ever mistaken an ending for failure, only to later realize it was a new beginning? 3. What would it look like to let hope back in, even if just a little? Truth to take with you. Hope doesn't need proof to exist. It just needs your permission. Even if the clouds haven't cleared, you can still believe the light is on its way. Try this. Write a letter to yourself that starts with, I might not understand why this happened, but I trust that. Let the rest flow. Speak from faith. Let hope finish your sentence. Silver linings in the stories we tell. Just like storms clear the sky, tough moments clear the path. And how we interpret those moments shapes how we move forward. Things aren't always what they seem at first glance.